Hey everybody, welcome to Cycle News. We've got another new road test for you today. Just jumped off this thing. In fact, I've been riding this thing for the last couple of weeks. This is the 2025 Kawasaki Ninja 1100 SX SE. Now that SE badge on the end, you guessed it, means it's the special one. $15,399 MSRP. It's going to cost you at your local Kawasaki dealer prior to whatever charges they're going to chuck at you. As we all know, it can get a bit more expensive than that. But yeah, this is the special one. So this has got the Olin shock, the S46 shock. It's got the Brembo brakes. So nice braided, steel braided lines, all that good stuff. So a couple of nice little add-ons here. It's also got that absolutely beautiful, luminous Kawasaki paint, that metallic paint. I had a 2001 ZX9 when I was a kid, and that was the reason I bought the bike, was for the paint. You know, shows how little I knew back then. Anyway, new bike for this year. So the 1100 has also gone in tandem with the Versys 1100. Now, if you want to go check out the review on that, link up there. We went and tested that bike in Mexico a couple of weeks ago. These two share the same engine, so you get a 3mm longer stroke. You actually get a reduction in power on the 1100 compared to the 1000. So the old 1100 was 140 horsepower. This is 134. But in terms of torque, you actually get 1.5 horsepower more, 83.2 pounds-feet at 7,600 RPM. The previous one was 200 RPM higher at 7,800 RPM. Now, when you talk about larger capacity and lower horsepower, people kind of freak out a little bit, and rightfully so, because after all, more capacity, more horsepower, right? Technically, yes, not entirely. As we've seen with a bunch of Kawasaki's motors, including the Kawasaki ZX6 from 2024, which we tested in 2023, also link up there if you want to go check that one out as well. They've done revised cam timing for this new motor. It's got lower lift cams, but they've also done a lot of work on the intake. So they're basically they're putting more high pressure air into the cylinder, but you're actually getting less. So Kawasaki is bumped up the low to mid-range torque on this bike, which they also said the same thing on the ZX6, but that motor doesn't really benefit from it. This one really does. So you've got a lot of low-down grunt and especially roll-on grunt. So if you're fifth and sixth gear on the freeway, sixth gear at 62 mile an hour is about 4,200 RPM. Get on that throttle, whack, and it will go from 62 to 82 like that, and you'll vaporize cars. There are very few bikes, I reckon, that actually keep up with this thing at those revs. Obviously, when you get up to higher engine speeds and higher performance and higher rolling speeds, you're going to end up having bikes like Superbikes will walk this thing. But in terms of like real-world performance, I hate that word, real-world, that term real-world. But in terms of real-world performance, the Ninja 1100 SX SE has absolute bundles of it. Now, it's got a really nice throttle response. You get two power modes. You get a full and a low power. Low power gives you 75% of the available of the engine's available grunt. It also gives you a slightly softer throttle response. Now, when you're talking about the electronics with this bike, you get four modes. Four? That's three. Four. Dumbass. You get four riding modes. So you get rain, sport, road, and rider. Now, as you can imagine, the road is the rain is the softest mode, sport's the highest, but within that you got the rider mode, and that rider mode allows you, it's basically just like a one in all mode. So if you really wanted to, you could have no traction control and low power mode. You could have no traction control and high power mode if you really wanted to. That's the interesting thing with this bike, because it's a 6-axis IMU, so it's got all the good stuff. It's got cornering brakes and cornering ABS, cornering lights, all that sort of stuff. But there's actually not that much you can really alter within the electronics, because a lot of bikes will sit there and say you can change your slide control and you're this and you're that. And Kawasaki, all they've actually allowed you to do is just give you access to how much power you can have and how much traction control you can have, and that's it. You can't screw around with the ABS, you can't do any of that stuff. If you wanted to do wheelies and things like that, then yeah, you can switch your traction control off and away you go, and it does wheelies. But that's kind of good in this day where it's kind of like, with the bikes, it's almost death by 1,000 paper cuts. There's just so much stuff you can change and screw around with, and does it really make that much of a difference? I don't know. I don't terribly think so, especially after a month on this thing. So I was quite happy to just find my preferred setting and just be done with it. Coincidentally, I usually leave the traction control on. I was quite happy in the sport setting. That was that was happy days. If I want to do a wheelie, I'd stick it in a rider mode with the traction control off and do a wheelie and switch it back. Now for the price, you don't actually get heated grips as standard, which is really annoying. You do get cruise control, happy days. It's not radar adjusted cruise control or anything like that. It's just regular cruise control. It's all done via the left handlebar switch block. You also get access to that Kawasaki Rideology, the app, is how it's actually called, the Kawasaki Rideology app. That gives you access to everything, you know, like your all different vehicle parameters. You can log your ride, you can do turn-by-turn navigation, do your calls, your music, all that stuff. So it's a good app, you know, like it takes a while to get your head around, but it's not a bad little thing to get used to. And especially if you own one of these things, you'd be straight into it and you'd be able to set your bike up how you like and your rides and all that kind of stuff. So Kawasaki's been pushing that Rideology app for a really long time now, and each year it gets a little bit better. So they've done quite well there. As far as road holding goes, it's really nice. The shock for my weight at 200 pounds on the dot is a little bit soft, so I went up a little bit in preload, and I could do that thanks to that bad boy. Yes, remote preload adjuster. God, why don't people put more remote preload adjusters on? Why do they have to get spanners and bloody screwdrivers and hammers and bash the thing around the collar? So thankfully you get a remote preload adjuster on the SX SE. So I did a couple of turns on the back, also had the boy on the back, my young lad Harvey. He and I have done a lot of rides together on this bike, which I've been really stoked about. It's the first bike that he's properly had a go at and really enjoyed. If you do want to go further in your touring, you can put a top box on and that kind of stuff, so you can really set this thing up quite nicely. Brembo brakes on this bike are good. They lack a little bit of feel at the lever on the master cylinder, and I've got to say, I got the ABS kicking in a little bit earlier than I would have liked. If you're very smooth and deliberate in your braking, that's fine, but I did start to get a decent amount of shudder. If I just quickly pulled the brakes in just to see when it goes, it would activate quite quickly, which is a bit odd, I've got to say. I would have thought we would get a bit more give with the system before it starts kicking in. Hey, at least you know it works, that's for sure. It's still braided brake lines as well, so happy days there. Also, you get Bridgestone S23 tyres as standard. Now, again, if you want to go check out the review on those tyres, go check out the link up there. I'm telling you right now, these are probably my favourite street tyres. You know, in terms of just longevity, sporting tyres, I've said that we put them on our GSX-R 750 that we've had. They come out of stock on the MT-09. Like they're everywhere. Like so many manufacturers are going, hang on, these tires are really good, and they are, man. They're putting them all on their bikes as standard, so it's good stuff there. Unfortunately, also you don't get these things as standard, the 28-litre saddlebags, which is a bit of a bummer, to be honest. But they do hold a full face Arai just nicely. It's a bit of a snug fit. I don't know whether they're going to hold one of those helmets that has all the winglets and the air ducts and all that kind of stuff on there. If you've got a relatively round shaped helmet, you'll be fine. They're quite nice looking things. They're very slimly designed. Like the whole bike is a very cohesive kind of aesthetic. You know, they don't look out of place on this bike. In fact, I've never even taken them off. I've seen them with them off, and I think it looks better with them on, personally. And I love having bloody panniers, man. I've reached that stage in my life where if I've got luggage on a bike, I am dialed. Absolutely happy. Also too, for the touring capabilities out there, I forgot to mention this, you get a USB-C charging point on the bike. It looks really kind of afterthoughty, I gotta say. It's this big block of a thing that sits at the top of the left handlebar. I don't understand why we couldn't have had it in the area that they've blocked off down the bottom here that used to have phone charger. I don't know why they didn't put it there, but whatever. Hey, at least you got it. Kawasaki's at least been good enough to give you charging. In terms of ride comfort, it is, for my money, absolutely spot on. Nice, just a little bit forward from vertical. Get a decent bend in your knees, so it's not quite as pronounced bend in your knees, so it's not as, I'll put it on this side so you can see. So it's not too bad. It does start to get a little bit achy over a couple of hours, but the seat's really nice on this bike, unlike the Versys 1100, so don't know why it's so different. But yeah, really nicely designed ergonomics. Screen is pretty good. It's three-way adjustable, so you can change that however you like. Yeah, ride comfort on this thing I think is superb. I've done some big days on these bikes already, and I absolutely love it. So, you know, kudos to Kawasaki there. They really got the ergonomics right. Right, so 15, we'll call it 15 and a half. Yeah, for 15 and a half grand, a good bike from Kawasaki. Would have been nice if they had hand grips as standard. That would have been good. I think when you start optioning it up, you'd be a bit silly not to buy these things, the side cases, because they look good. They're designed with the bike. You know, it's not like an aftermarket system that's just like a bit of an add-on. They fit everything well. I think it looks good. Got that gorgeous paint. Like, it's a very neatly designed motorcycle. S46 shock as well on the back with the Olins. So look, it's a really good bike. So this is going to be interesting to see how it goes, because this sport touring segment is really heating up now, and you can get some pretty good deals out there. 15.6 or 15.3, I think I said it was. You know, it's definitely getting up there a bit. So not compared to stuff like BMWs, XRs and all that stuff. That's a whole different level, so I don't even look at that. But you know, you're up against guys like the Tracer and that, which is a few grand cheaper, slightly different motor and that kind of stuff. So it's a very, very competitive class, this one. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. But at least from my seat, from my point of view, I found it really enjoyable to ride. I'm not giving this thing back anytime soon. I'm going to keep riding it until they ask for it. Well, that's it, guys, for us. That was a quick one on the Kawasaki Ninja 1100 SX SE. Now, if you like this, please give us a thumbs up and put your comments down below. I will do my very best to get back to you as always. Until then, keep it rubber side down. I'll see you next time. Cheers.